Today for Devotions with Daniella, and apropos of absolutely nothing going on in the culture right now, we are reading I Still Believe Anita Hill. 3 generations discuss the legacies of speaking truth to power. This is excerpts from the testimony of Anita Hill at the Clarence Thomas Senate confirmation hearings, October 11th, 1991. Senator Howell Heflin, Democrat, Alabama. Are you a scorned woman? Anita Hill, no. Senator Howell Heflin, are you a zealot civil rights believer? Anita Hill, no, I do not have that kind of complex. I do not like all of the attention I am getting. Senator Arlen Specter, Republican, Pennsylvania. Do you have anything to gain by coming here? Has anyone promised you anything by coming forth with this story now? Anita Hill, I have not gained anything except knowing that I came forward and did what I felt I had an obligation to do, and that was to tell the truth. After approximately 3 months of working with Thomas at the Department of Education, he asked me to go out socially with him. What happened next and telling the world about it are the 2 most difficult experiences of my life. It is only after a great deal of agonizing consideration and a number of sleepless nights that I am able to talk of these unpleasant matters to anyone but my close friends. I declined the invitation to go out socially with him and explained to him that I thought it would jeopardize what, at the time, I considered to be a very good working relationship. I believed then, as now, that having a social relationship with a person who was supervising my work would be ill-advised. I was very uncomfortable with the idea and told him so. I thought that by saying no and explaining my reasons, my employer would abandon his social suggestions. However, to my regret, in the following few weeks, he continued to ask me out on several occasions. He pressed me to justify my reasons for saying no to him. These incidences took place in his office or mine. They were in the form of private conversations, which would not have been overheard by anyone else. My working relationship became even more strained when Judge Thomas began to use work situations to discuss sex. He spoke about acts that he had seen in pornographic films involving such matters as women having sex with animals and films showing group sex or rape scenes. He talked about pornographic materials depicting individuals with large penises or large breasts, individuals in various sex acts. On several occasions, Thomas told me graphically of his own sexual prowess. Because I was extremely uncomfortable talking about sex with him at all, and particularly in such a graphic way, I told him I did not want to talk about these subjects. I would also try to change the subject to education matters or to non-sexual personal matters, such as his background or his beliefs. My efforts to change the subject were rarely successful. The comments were random and ranged from pressing me about why I didn't go out with him to remarks about my personal appearance. I remember him saying that someday I would have to tell him the real reason I wouldn't go out with him. He began to show displeasure in his tone and voice and his demeanor in his continued pressure for an explanation. He commented on what I was wearing in terms of whether it made me more or less sexually attractive. When I informed him that I was leaving my job, I recall that his response was that now I would no longer have an excuse for not going out with him. I told him I still preferred not to do so. When I left my job, he made a comment that I will vividly remember. He said that if I ever told anyone of his behavior, that it would ruin his career. This was not an apology, nor was it an explanation.